This is MFG Out Loud. Courageous conversations about sales and marketing for today's manufacturers. With your hosts, Ray Zaganto and Allison DeFore.
Hey, Trailblazers, welcome to the latest episode of MFG Out Loud. And we have a treat for you today. Our special guest is Mr. Paul Van Metre. And if you don't already know him from his work and development with Proshop, buckle up. This is going to be fun. There's some cool stuff coming our way. His own LinkedIn profile, he first refers to himself as former machine shop owner. So we got the credibility thing out of the way. But his business, Proshop, is ERP, QMS, MES solutions. He's the co-founder, and we got an awesome time scheduled today. So if you're in job shop manufacturing in general, CNC machining in specific, I'm sure you've pretty much heard of the company. Proshop is a revolutionary software for small to medium manufacturing companies to help them realize considerably more profit and throughput with far less frustration. Okay, sounds good, but there's a couple things that really make Proshop extraordinary. I'll make it three things. One, that's true. Everything I just, they say in their promotional stuff, they actually deliver on the promise. So that actually happens, and you hear about it through their customers. Your customers love you, Paul. This blew me away after so many years in manufacturing. The last thing anybody in manufacturing wants to talk about is their ERP system. It's that necessary evil. It's that eating the kale that you know is good for you, but you just can't swallow it and get it down. Paul and his team developed a software that works so damn well. You guys, at last count, I see 18 video testimonials on your website, and I know a number of your rabid fans out there. And it's not smoke and mirrors and fluff. These are manufacturers that are so damn excited about ERP because it works. It really does what it's supposed to do. So, like I said, this is going to be a ride you don't want to miss. Paul, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ray and Allison. It is absolutely an honor. I've been on a lot of podcasts, and I don't think I've been ever as excited about this one as coming on with you guys.
Smart man.
Yeah, good answer. So, hey, listen, let's get right to it. How in the world did you find yourself in the ERP business?
We found ourselves in the ERP business out of necessity.
Okay.
We, as you said in my LinkedIn profile, I used to own a shop. So my partners and I met in college, and we actually, for those that are in sort of the engineering side of things, we actually designed and built race cars for the Formula SAE competition, which many mechanical engineers get in engineering through that. It was the most fun thing we ever imagined doing, and we decided to start a shop right out of college, so we did that. And as we grew that company, we started having more sophisticated needs and needing some software, we started looking, and we just quite honestly couldn't find anything that we thought was worth buying. And it's a very crowded space. Like if you look on Capterra, there's like 1,200 different ERP products,
right?
But none of them were able to help us run a machine shop the way that we needed to run it. And so we just built it ourselves.
God bless you for doing that. I guess number one, overcoming the disappointment that must have come from your parents when you told them you were going into manufacturing. But seriously, we've all struggled so much with that, trying to take an off-the-shelf solution and tailor it to the needs of a job shop environment. And there, until you guys came along, it wasn't there. It was a path. It was like, well, what's going to hurt the least,
Sure.
to get going with that. What's the biggest challenge that you saw with scaling the solution? You built it, and as I understand, you had some of your peers and colleagues would come along and go, hey, you mind sending a copy of that our way? I mean, what made you flip the switch and say, you know what, this is our future?
Yeah, I mean, we when we first built it, we had no intentions of selling it to anyone else, right? It was strictly for ourselves. just an in-house solution, and we ran it that way for more than 8 years. And it was our biggest machine shop customer that actually approached us and asked us to sell it to them. And after it took some arm twisting, because we didn't really want to do that at first, but after we did it and it went so well, and then we decided to sell the company and go into software full time. I think the biggest challenge, I'd say we have two biggest challenges. One is just managing the growth, right? Finding people. Now we've been fortunate that like on the implementation side, because an ERP of course takes a lot of implementation time.
Sure.
Ours takes less than most, but you still need a lot of people that can train and understand the machine shop business. But we had a pretty good supply of former employees from our shop that actually wanted to follow us and join us over here. So
Cool as that.
we've never poached an employee, but from a customer, but we did have plenty that volunteered.
Difference with a distinction.
It is an important distinction.
Yeah, that's right.
But then quite honestly, the biggest challenge on an ongoing basis is education of how Proshop is actually different, right? Like you said, no one loves their ERP.
Right.
People don't, they think they're all the same, right? When you go to some of these review websites and you pull up and you compare 2 or 3 different systems, like our competitors will have checkboxes on the same sort of area, like quality management, but when you dig into it, they're not even remotely the same.
Yeah.
So that's a real uphill battle, that it is actually different. It was built on the shop floor. We built it for our own needs, and it actually works the way we say it works.
That's awesome.
Do you feel like one of the biggest challenges has been, because I totally zoomed in on what you just said, because that's my sandbox, right? Is the marketing infrastructure of a brand infrastructure of a company. Do you feel like one of the biggest hurdles has been changing mindsets, right?
100%. Yeah. I mean, they most folks think ERP is all the same, and it's something to be avoided at all costs. And there's huge fear of change as well. They feel comfortable even if they hate their existing system, and there's a lot of momentum that doesn't want to move.
Is there like a biggest specific objection that you guys help manufacturers overcome right out the gate?
Well, a lot of folks surprisingly have a fear of going paperless. A lot of shops are like, no, that can't work. We've been using paper forever. People like to hold on to that 8.5 by 11 or that 11 by 17 drawing. And they're like, that can't possibly work, but it can work, and it does work. And I don't fault people for it. Like, we've heard, hundreds of stories of just people getting burned by other ERP salesmen that claim their systems do all this great stuff. And then when they buy and they get into it, it just doesn't work the way it was advertised. And I feel for them. I'm kind of mad at the other folks, because these small companies are, they're the lifeblood of our economy, right? They're the ground floor of everything that our country builds in terms of creating value in the world. And it's a really hard type of business to run. And they pour their blood, sweat, and tears into these businesses, and then they get sold products that don't work very well, and they're pulling their hair out. So it's just, it's a tough situation. But
part of what I see and hear when I talk to clients or people that I know that are running your software, when I look at the users that post things online, and for all our listeners, Paul's a prolific contributor on LinkedIn himself personally, and the company, and if you tag him on something, he writes back. So it's so by all means, check him out there. But one of the big things I see that's a difference for Proshop in particular on the ERP side is you're focused. It's manufacturing centric is really where it is. And you still bring the shop mentality to it. You know what I mean? Because a lot of the posts I see Proshop, or from you directly, or from the users, are about it's that community. Hey, have you seen you can now do this that helps you do that? You know, which is a common problem everybody has. That type of thing. It's just there just really seems to be a community built around it. Was that dumb question? Was that kind of intentional, or did it just?
I guess. I mean, it's really been a bit of an accident. And we have started using the term, welcome to the Proshop family, with our clients. But no, I mean, the shop floor is where I spent most of my career. So that's that's most of what I know. And I guess this almost underscores sort of why we built our product in the first place. In any manufacturing company, and specifically a machine shop, which I know best, the value comes from the shop floor, right? It comes from those machinists turning blocks of metal into precision goods. And that area, so therefore it's really the most important area of the company, right? I mean, of course, everything has to work together. You have to have salespeople, so the customers have to come in, and you have to, have clean books. So the bookkeepers are really important, but the value is created on the shop floor. And that's really, we couldn't find software that helped us with the execution of the shop floor. And so that's really the core of what Proshop, is, and a lot of the very specific features we have. So yeah, that's what I know. That's what I think is important. So that's mostly what I talk about, how to execute, how to make manufacturing more efficient, how to be more lean, how to do more with less.
Yeah. What I think is cool is you see the testimonials coming from the operations side. Historically, ERP was something that was selected by accounting.
Yes.
And it made invoicing and tracking the financials easy, when the real problems were, well, what happens, once something goes into that whip, black hole, on the, where is it? What's it? Or, there's so many other areas, and then connecting in quality and everything else. So, I just, as an operations guy, it's so refreshing to see that the factory guys get it and embrace it.
Well, you said something to me when we first met each other. You're like, Paul, you're taking what's arguably the least sexy part of manufacturing, which is ERP software, and you're making it sexy. And I'm like, well, it is, and the shop floor is sexy, and that's really where the action happens. So we got to focus on that.
I'm with you, brother.
I love it. Well, and you interact with shops of all shapes and sizes across the U.S. And I am pretty sure you've noticed some best practices or trends that are happening. Do you want to enlighten our listeners on some of those?
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously digitalization is, digital transformation. It's it's ubiquitous term these days, but hugely important. Even just that discussion of getting rid of paper, right? That in and itself is digital transformation, and we've been doing that for years, but there's so many companies that are now embracing that. It's really important, and I think it's going to help level up their ability to perform, their ability to be competitive. Ray, you just shared a post today about the cost of U.S. goods and how many people in America are actually willing to pay more for U.S. goods, right? And about a third won't, and some will. And but it underscores the importance of making sure that manufacturing is always more efficient than it was yesterday, and always moving forward. And so anyway, we're definitely seeing that. We're seeing as well that companies are also becoming more integrated in the way they think about operations and quality. And they're not, they are sometimes separate departments, but it's so crucial to integrate them really tightly. And then that actually becomes, and I've talked about this lots of places, that becomes an effective sales tool to drive growth in the company, right? Those buyers that are out there are skeptical of every business that's out there. They make incredible claims on their websites that they have the best everything and 100% great clients and great delivery and quality. But But when you open the curtain and look behind it, there's often a lot of chaos in a lot of manufacturing companies. And so the smart ones are really understanding that you got to be as transparent as you can, be really honest about what tools you have in place to guarantee that great quality delivery you claim to have. So we're definitely seeing the most successful companies embracing that for sure.
And I've heard that for sure. You bring up a good point. Nobody in the history of manufacturing has ever filled out a self-audit and failed themselves. Sure. But once somebody comes in and say, "Oh, no, you don't really do that,"
Yeah,
so,
we talk to a lot of companies that say, "Yeah, we're ISO compliant. We've never been audited, but we're compliant." And no, you're not.
not even
Not
close.
Yeah.
That's like someone that says, "I'm a cuddler." Your mate's like, "No, you're really not," but you think you are.
The fine line between cuddler and creepy.
Yeah.
Oh man, but you and I've heard this more than once too. As far as having the tool having Proshop in place, that is a leveler for the smaller organization, to be able to bring credibility. It lets David knock on Goliath's door and go, "Look what's backing me up." Because you give me some business now, I can keep up with you. I can keep track of what we have now, and this thing is scalable. So that's huge. It really is. It's a huge advantage.
Yeah, I was talking with a really relatively small shop of ours, probably less than 10 people for sure, and he said they just got some opportunities with a global brand, and he actually said, he's like, "I'm trying not to sound like a Proshop fanboy, but it really is opening doors for us that we would not have otherwise had." And it's sort of giving those clients that confidence that they have the level of sophistication to to run their shop in a way that customer demands.
Yeah, and that's kind of the definition. Hey, it's another one of those things. Everybody says they're in business to help make their clients better. Because we do what we do so that we can help. It's fulfilling, it's rewarding, it's a way to take this our combined zillion years of experience, right, Allison, and help impart that in a meaningful way so others can rise up, and you're doing that very thing, and I think that's so awesome, because your business is beyond just they've implemented it, next. It's just constantly.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I know. In a company like ours, it's the long game that we need to focus on, right? Selling a software up front is not the goal. The goal is to have a happy customer for 5, 10, 20 years, right? Because you don't, once you put in a system like an ERP, and you don't want to do that again, and that's a lot of the reason why people have reluctance to switch as well in the first place, because they've already done it. It was terrible. They don't want to do it again. So it's the long game for sure. That's really, really important.
Oh, that's awesome.
Do you have any, like, a favorite success story that comes to mind of?
I mean, so many, but there's certainly stories of companies that well, I guess some of my favorites are really the origin stories, right? We've had many. We've had some clients that have bought Proshop as like one of their very first purchases. Like, they're buying their CNC machine today and they're buying Proshop tomorrow, right? And putting us in on day one. And there's a shop called RX Industries in Hilton Head, South Carolina. I'm actually wearing his shirt right now. RX Industries,
represent.
Tom, and he bought a shop that it was a pretty small startup shop, and he bought it. And in the first year, he's gone from basically himself to now 2 other employees, and he's hiring a 4th, and bought another machine, right? And it's just amazing, and it's awesome. And he relies on Proshop as sort of a backbone of everything he's doing. And it's just it's an honor to help him and to help companies like that. And then we also have, the bigger companies, the 50, 60 person companies that that or bigger that are just sort of saddled with some really not good fitting system, and they're maybe barely profitable and just having a tough time of it. And we bring in Proshop, and 6 or 9 months later, they've freed up 3 overhead positions and put them into more value-added roles, and their revenue is up by 20%, and they're hiring people, and they're profitable, and just that is amazing. And it feels so good to help those companies because they're hiring more people in their local communities, and they're just helping sort of rise it's that rising tide, right?
Yeah.
So
what would you tell either the company that's out there, kicking tires, trying to make a decision on implementing an ERP system for the first time, or one that's just kind of sucking it up? I mean, what's the message? What's the perception you need to overcome and tell people? It's like, listen, you don't have to put up with this anymore.
Sure.
What's kind of that thing that people just kind of miss or take for granted?
Whew. I mean, find a system. Really, I guess do the research on the company behind the product, right? And I don't want to. I definitely don't want to bash other products. I mean, there are good ones out there. There are companies that really like them, and they do care, and they're trying to do best for their clients as well. They're just taking a different approach.
Sure.
But I'd say there are there's that, especially that ERP space. It was busy. It still continues to be busy. There's new companies coming into it all the time. And what's good, for one client may not be good for another. We get people coming to us all the time and say, hey, I'm interested in Proshop. And when we talk to them, we're like, no, I don't think that's actually a great fit. There's maybe something better. They're a cabinet maker, and there's really great cabinet making ERP software, right? So yeah, I'd say look at the company behind the product. Look at take a really cohesive or sort of a holistic approach to what your needs are. You mentioned earlier that usually it's the CFO that drives the charge, does the research. That's actually in our ERP buyer's guide is one of the flaws, one of the things to not do. Don't let the accounting department totally lead the charge. Let it be, a whole company decision.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are just a few tips I'd suggest.
Well, how would you describe an ideal fit customer for Proshop?
It would be, in the super narrowest part of the bullseye, it would be a machine shop, job shop that is probably somewhere between 20 and 200 people that is doing really complex work in a regulated industry, like aerospace, medical, defense space, where they have to have all those quality regulations that they're abiding by, and they just have really complex processes to manage, right? From really exotic materials with lots of mil specs and requirements and certifications and multiple external processes and just a lot of moving pieces that are easy to lose track of. It's kind of the more complex the process gets and the more regulation they have to follow, kind of the better Proshop shines. But we've also found that if you expand that sort of bullseye a little bit more, there's an incredible amount of manufacturers, fab shops, even OEM manufacturers that are just doing complex manufacturing processes on their own parts and assemblies. That can also be a good fit for what we're doing.
Cool. Now, is your stuff, are you cloud, on-prem, or both, or how are you?
Both, about 90% cloud, but there are certainly the occasional client that just has really sucky internet service, or their customers just really don't trust the cloud, even though we can do like gov cloud type things too. But so for a small fraction of clients, we do basically install a web server inside their facility, and it's still all browser based, but it's just being hosted locally instead of on the internet.
Cool stuff.
Do you feel like the evolution, we have to wrap up soon. I hate to do that. So I'd say that because I know Ray's going to have one more question, but I'm going to sneak one in first. do you feel like you continuously improve because of, I want to say, failures more than successes, or like, I don't know if I'm going to ask this right, customers coming to you and saying, you know what, it'd be really great if the software did this? Or do you feel like it's more of you and your team recognizing what they need before they ever need it and adding it, or maybe a mix? I'm just curious.
Definitely a mix. I mean, we have not exaggerating. We probably have a feature backlog of over 1,000 items,
Wow.
and probably many hundreds of them were things that we decided we wanted to build someday back when we ran our shop. But every business is, even though there's incredible commonality with shops, there's definitely differences with everybody. And so we get suggestions, every day, every week, like, hey, it would be really cool if this page had this button, or it did this thing, or this other feature. And so yeah, we collaborate a lot with our clients. We have some that are in additive manufacturing now, right? More and more. And so we're talking about what features can we add to make additive manufacturing, more compatible with Proshop. So
Interesting.
yeah, no, but listening to that voice of the customer, no matter what your product is, so incredibly important.
That's awesome. All right, I do have one more question. Last one.
Okay.
What lessons from 2020 are you carrying forward? I mean, that was a crazy time, for everybody. What's a change or something that came about that you said, you know what, we're going to keep doing that, or this is something we're going to get good at going forward?
I guess to keep it on the lighter side, we're going to keep doing virtual happy hours, even,
Nice.
every week in our company, even when we are back together again. I mean, we're more and more a virtual company. We have people in 2 main locations plus like 5 other states. But yeah, we started doing happy hours, and we just laugh and, drink cocktails and tell stories and share pictures from our youth. And it is so much fun. And we will never not do that again.
Oh, there you go. What a great way to wrap things up. Well, Paul, cheers to you and the Proshop team.
Cheers. Absolutely. Thank you.
What a great story, and a great journey that you're on. And we're so grateful that you were able to spend some time with us here today.
Well, you guys are both doing amazing stuff out in the industry. Appreciate everything you're doing for your clients as well. And it's just great to collaborate and talk shop.
There you go. We'll keep that up. So again, Paul, thank you so much. And for all of our listeners, if you enjoyed what you heard today from Paul, and you want to check us out, hey, go find us on the Apple Podcasts. I think we're on Spotify. We're on
about 8 different platforms.
We're out there. You can find
We're
us
everywhere.
Please hit like if you really enjoyed it. Please tell a friend, because we love to spread the word. Manufacturing is important to us, and we want to bring you some value and some fantastic guests like Paul. So with that said, Allison, take us home. All
right. Everybody listening, thank you. We appreciate you, and keep manufacturing out loud, because we need you.
Thank you for listening to MFG Out Loud with Ray Zaganto and Allison DeFore. You can subscribe and find show notes at mfgoutloud.com.